Hey everybody, I'm Tommy.
And I'm Patty.
And we are
Alderman Farms.
Welcome to the first installment of what we're going to call
Sustainable Saturdays.
Sustainable Saturdays. We're going to be looking at ways in which we can become more sustainable. But I guess the first thing we need to talk about is, what does that even mean? What is sustainability? What do we have in mind when we talk about sustainability?
Well, and you know, I feel like the word sustainability is kind of like the word homesteaders.
Yeah.
You know, over time, the word homesteaders has changed. I used to not like it when people would call me a homesteader or make reference to what we do as homesteading, because I always thought of homesteaders as in covered wagons going across the prairie and, you know, homesteading on a piece of property, you know, and taming a wild land and everything. But now today, I mean, people even say you can homestead right where you're at, even if you're in an apartment. And so the meaning has just kind of changed over time. And I feel like sustainability has changed over time too, because when I think of our farm being sustainable, I mean, without any outside input. But some people would say, well, if you have a job and you can buy feed for your animal, then, or if your animal produces eggs, if your chicken produces eggs and that you can sell, that you can buy their feed, then that's sustainable. And I would agree with that to a certain extent, but that's not where we're going with this sustainability.
Yeah, we're gonna operate under we're gonna set a goal that we can never reach, never fully reach. But the goal is that we want to be able to, in various facets of our life, have them exist on their own without any outside inputs. And you'll learn more about that as Patty gets into the list of topics that we're going to begin covering starting 1 week from today. Next Saturday.
That's right.
Will be the first installment of looking at a certain facet of life here at Alderman Farms in ways that we can make it more sustainable. So the ultimate goal may not be reachable, where every facet of our existence here can be totally self-sufficient, self-sustainable, without having to buy anything or any outside inputs. But it's still, even though it may be completely, or it may be unattainable in the complete sense, it's still a nice goal to move toward, to become, so, because there's a thing such as, or there's a thing called sustainability, but then there's a process of becoming as sustainable as you can possibly become. Is it fair to say that that's our goal, our personal goal, is to become as sustainable as possible?
Yes, and I think that's a good description of it. And another thing that I wanted to mention also is that even if we don't take the steps right now or in the next year to reach our goal in an area, what we want to have is at least a plan in place to where if something does happen, we do have a plan that we can implement that will help sustain life here on the farm.
Right. And so part of the goal for us deciding to do this video series, this weekly video series, is to help us document the thoughts and ideas and plans that we would have going forward. But also, just as important, is that if we're thinking about this, you ought to be thinking about this. And you may come up with some completely different ideas towards sustainability than we come up with. You may have areas in your life, in your existence, that are totally unrelated to ours. You may have areas of sustainability that you need to think about that we won't even contemplate. And we may have some in our existence that don't apply to you. But together we can be starting to think about these things. You know, 2020 was a wake-up call in a lot of ways for a lot of people.
Yes.
And it didn't turn out as bad as it could have. But we think back to early 2020 when supplies were scarce
That's right.
and, toilet paper disappeared. So you got that on your list?
No, I don't, but I
We
guess I
need
do.
to think about ways to.
I think we've figured out toilet paper by now, though.
Okay,
I
because
think we've got that one figured out.
figure out a way to make the potty sustainable,
Yeah.
right?
I need to write that on the list.
Write it on the list. Speaking of the list, you want to rattle off a few of the things that we'll be covering in the weeks to come?
Yeah, things like, of course, food. Food is going to be very important on the list. But when you talk about food, then you talk about your gardening. Is your gardening sustainable? We have a high tunnel, and the high tunnel gets a bad mark. The high tunnel's not sustainable, but we need to make a
Yeah,
plan
it's really
for that
not. Because of the water.
because of the water.
We've got it on drip irrigation, which we hadn't really thought much about this. So if you got ideas, let us know. We'll get there. But the drip irrigation works off the water system, which works off our well, which works off of power. What if you don't have power?
Yeah. So we're looking at all these different scenarios, and it's not that we think that we're going to lose power and be without power for years, but things happen. We were without power for 10 days with Katrina.
Yeah.
There are people we know that were without power for a month with
2
Katrina.
months.
A week in the high tunnel in the summer, everything dies.
Yeah.
So there are things that that happen here in the South that we have to prepare for. Up north is ice storms. So anyway, and so back to the high tunnel, then preserving our food, our chickens, our goats, our pigs, our dogs. As we were getting ready to start this video, I thought about the dogs. We buy dog food, I have made some dog food for the little dogs, and
But you bought the ingredients.
I bought the ingredients that went in the dog food.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm going to have to do some research on. Heating and cooling our house. I know some places you don't have to cool your house because it doesn't get that hot, but here it gets really hot.
Heating the house is not a problem.
Right. And then once we produce all this food, how do you cook it? So we're going to be looking at a lot of different topics. I think there'll be fun topics. I'll be doing some experimenting, doing some different ways of cooking, and just using our imagination and how to accomplish these goals. And like
Yeah.
I said, we're going to at least have a plan. We will have a plan in place that, just like our high tunnel, if we get the watering figured out in there, we might not ever use that, but we will have a plan in place. Though I think rainwater is a lot better for your garden than well water.
Yeah,
So
it is. I mean, well water is rainwater, but after it's been filtered and all that.
Yeah.
And so let me tell you one thing this series is not going to be. It's not going to be doom and gloom, the world's coming to an end.
no.
There's enough of that out there, and that's just not how we roll. We know God is sovereign. We know Christ is on his throne, and any difficult seasons that come along, he's going to use to refine us and sharpen us and things of that nature. So we're not out here. Don't come looking for us to be preaching doom and gloom, because that's not what it's about.
Nope. And we don't expect anything to happen. But I'm going to tell you this. It's been, has it been 10 years ago when you got laid off? I can't remember.
Sounds about right.
Anyway, I had been prepping to a certain extent, not with hordes and hordes of stuff. Tommy was laid off for 2 months. We had all 4 kids still at home. So would it have been 10 years ago? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so we had mouths to feed and everything. But I'm going to tell you, one thing I was able to not have to do was to go to the grocery store. We were able to cut our expenses. We had a little bit of money saved up, and we did just fine. We didn't get extras. We didn't have all of our wants, but we had all of our needs. And so I was prepared for that. And so that's, thank God it only lasted 2 months, and Tommy got even a better position back at his company. and we were able to go ahead and move forward. But that did make us think, you know, we were prepared. We were able to keep living life. And honestly, during the pandemic and everything, you know, I was a little concerned about getting some more toilet paper, but I never ran out of toilet paper. I had let some of my supplies get low. You know, some of my sugar was low. My flour, I could have been selling lots of bread, but I didn't have enough flour to feed other people. So, you know, I want to be prepared for whatever the future holds, and I trust God, even if I'm not prepared. Like Tommy said, He's sovereign, and we trust Him in everything that happens, but we would like to do what we can to be prepared.
That's right. Just to be good stewards and be prepared. And, you know, there's who knows? The entire world economy could collapse tomorrow. It could. That could happen.
All right, doom and gloom.
Yeah, that could happen. But my point is, there's a whole lot of more temporary sort of catastrophic things that could happen and happen all the time. Katrina, that happened.
Yeah.
You know, on Christmas Eve here in our area, there was it 3 or 4 tornadoes? 3 or 4 tornadoes converged on an area just not far from here. Thank God, I don't believe any lives were lost, but you know, it was extremely active hurricane season. My point is, look, all you got to do is lose power.
And things change.
Things change. For those of us who aren't Doug and Stacy and have managed to carve out a wonderful existence off grid, we haven't done that. And I don't mind telling you, I don't have any plans to do that. We live in Mississippi, y'all. It gets hot here.
And one thing, talking about hot, it also gets cold. And we do get some ice and snow sometimes. But when that happens here, we lose power.
Yeah. All our power's up above the ground, and
yeah,
you know,
the limbs freeze, they fall and break the power lines. We get ice on the power lines, and so, you know, even in the wintertime, you know, you have to have a plan how you're going to heat your home, how you're going to cook, because we were without power one time when it snowed. It seemed like for 4 days.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's always good to have a plan and to have things ready to go. I know when we were on our trip, there was a hurricane coming, and my daughter Carly Ann was here, and I was calling her, and I had made her a list of things to do before, because she's never ridden out a hurricane by herself, which, you know, she had other family right here, but particularly here at our house. And there's just certain things that we do when we know a hurricane's coming, where we can have water, where we can have food and lights and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to be, again, we're looking to release one of these every Saturday, which is why we call it Sustainable Saturday. And we'll put them in a playlist. We'll have a Sustainable Saturday playlist that we hope you'll share. We hope you'll come and comment and like our videos. And
share what you're doing. We're interested to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, in the comments.
We don't have it all figured out.
No,
we're
heck
figuring
no.
it out now.
That's what we're figuring this out as we go. But yeah, in the comments on this video, have you thought about this? Let us know. You know, say, hey, Tommy and Patty, I'm glad you're thinking about this, because it dawned on me we need to be thinking about this. Or feel free to tell us, you mean y'all are just now thinking about this? Whatever. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs down. We want you to be honest. But we do appreciate every one of you watching. Subscribe to our channel if you had. Boy, that sounded Mississippi, didn't it? Yeah. Subscribe. I didn't mean it to come out like that. I got this. I'm wearing a mouthpiece because I grate my teeth like a cow. That's what the dentist lady told me. Mr. Alderman, your teeth look like an old cow. So I'm wearing a mouthpiece to keep that from happening. And it affects the way I talk. But what else?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time at AldermanFarms.